Hey, it's Chris Dunham with Kevin Hartke. We're going to talk for, 45 minutes or so. This is Real Talk USA with the real estate guy. If you don't know who Kevin Hartke is, he is the mayor of Chandler. He is a pastor of, is it Trinity?
Trinity Christian Fellowship.
Trinity Christian Fellowship. He feeds homeless people, which is how we met, right? We were handing out food boxes with the Resurrection Street Ministry, and there's this guy next to me passing off boxes, and then I find out a couple days later, it's the mayor of Chandler.
Yeah, you actually mixed a couple things. We do a homeless outreach,
Okay.
which I started in Chandler, and this was a food box giveaway that
Right.
serves a bunch of everybody, including people who are struggling on the streets.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't know the dynamic of it, which is why I wanted you to come on to talk about things like that. Oh, and also, a little bird told me that you're doing something even more spectacular, which is, I'm sharing my screen, Kevin Hartke for the Arizona House.
There you go. I am terming out as mayor. I think I've acquired a fair amount of knowledge to match the passions within me in terms of addressing some big issues at our state level. So I'm excited about doing that.
Yeah, I think if you do what you've done as a governor and you go and do it on a state level,
As a mayor,
governor, I got a little
mayor,
far ahead, right? You're not governor yet. We're
I don't
working on that.
don't want to challenge any of my friends that are running for governor right now with that statement.
I apologize. So Arizona, it's a state senator you're running for?
I'm
Or the
running
House?
for the State House of Representatives.
Okay. So where is that? So for people that don't understand the whole political tree, where is that on the lines? Like right now you're Chandler Mayor, so that's a step up, correct?
It's a step to the side in terms of the amount of people that are in legislative district 13. It's about 260,000 people. Where
Okay.
Chandler's about 200 and over 290. So, but it deals with statewide policies that of which cities like Chandler are regulated and by the state and certainly by the state house. There are 60 state representatives and 30 state senators.
Okay.
They comprise budgets that work with the governor to pass and do other things across the great state of Arizona.
Outstanding. So how did you start? We're going to back up a little bit because I want to know how you started. Did you go to the church? How did that all begin with you becoming the pastor for the church?
Yeah, so I moved to Trinity in 85. I was working at a Christian ministry up on the northern borders of Minnesota and Ontario, working with Cree, Ojibwe, indigenous folks, and we would go into villages and serve. I did that for about 5 years, totally out of line with my degree in biochemistry and directions to head into the medical field. I thought I was taking a brief sabbatical from my goals to do that, but they ended up shaping my goals. And the organization was going through some changes, and I could see that we were going to be moving from there. And out of the blue, I got a call inviting me to come to Chandler and visit with this church. They were looking for a young adult student pastor, which I'd worked a lot with kids in the past at college and high school. And we came down, loved the church, they loved us, and they extended an invitation, and we took them up and moved here in March of 1985, and I've been here ever since.
That's amazing. So I was 15 at the time, not to date you at all. So how long did it take? Now, so biochemistry, that was your major in college?
That was my undergrad degree, yeah.
And what were you planning to do with that?
I had taken my MCATs. I applied to some medical schools, and I just really felt that I needed to spend a longer time at this. So I didn't go back to pursue that. I thought, let's do a delay. Let's take some time and then come back to that dream. But this became my dream.
And you're very good at it because, again, I didn't realize who you were in relation to what we were doing the first time I met you handing out the food boxes on that Tuesday afternoon until a few days later when Bill told me, who runs the Resurrection Street Ministry, when I was talking to him about the event and I started doing more things with him, he kind of pointed out, well, the pastor is the mayor of Chandler. I was like, really? Because at the time I lived in Chandler off McQueen and Ocotillo. So I drove by the church all the time. So it was kind of cool to put the pieces of the puzzle together and realize, well, okay, here's a super nice human who runs a church, and he's also, by the way, he's the mayor. How did that work with the dynamic of all the nonsense in politics and you being, obviously a very well versed Christian man and all the chaos that politics comes with? Because I have to imagine that's somewhat of a struggle on some levels.
I think you would also agree with me that there are probably a few events that happen in your life that what happens next is a carrying out from that
Sure.
event.
Yeah.
And I'd say my first getting into ministry happened when I was working with a hospital team down in Mexico, and I had just diagnosed a woman with TB. I was the med tech of this team.
Wow.
I put myself through college working medical labs, chemistry, hematology. But a young woman died after I diagnosed her with my diagnosis means that I tested her for TB and turned the info, of course, to the docs. But she died that night. And that just had a profound impact on me that I really realized that my life was going to be to serve people. And I think it started on a mountaintop in Hidalgo, Mexico. And that kind of led me into the whole mission circles that led me to the pastoral realm.
Nice.
Pastor here for a few years. There was a young boy from Oaxaca, Mexico, who was living in some housing across the street that got on his bike and was heading for work at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he got shot. They got killed by some gangs who were doing this right of entry thing. That just deeply disturbed me. And
Yeah.
I thought, we could do better. And I really felt I needed to get involved outside the walls of my church, looking for not just the betterment of my congregation, but of my city. And so I it was one of my first times speaking at a council meeting, other than giving an invocation for that
Okay.
meeting. And I just remember pounding on the days saying, we could do better. And of course, we did. Learned nothing from my event at city council other than a conviction to get involved. And the police later arrested these folks. They really cleaned up Chandler amazingly before I got involved. But it was that event that made me look at, I need to know the other people who are leaders. And the first event I ever got involved in was a Cesar Chavez Day where I was picking up trash in an alley. So
No,
first, yeah, it was kind of don't despise humble
no,
beginnings on the
absolutely
street.
not.
Yeah, but that led me to get to know mayors and council members and city managers and to being appointed to boards and commissions. And I served on a charter revision, human relations commission, planning and zoning. And I was appointed to council. I was elected to council, and then I ran for mayor and have
Nice.
been elected successfully twice.
So that was my next question. So the mayor terms are 4 years each. So you've been there for 8 years.
Yeah, in
Okay.
Chandler, I could serve up to 8 years, two 4-year terms as mayor. I'm terming out, and but really believe that I'm still called to serve my people, my community, my state in this realm. And I've learned a lot through working as the chair of MAG with legislators on transportation issues, as the president of League of Cities on housing and taxing issues. And I think this would be a good next step for me, is to look at groups as allies rather than at adversaries, and see what we can do within my party and beyond to say, let's get some things done that are going to work to the betterment of our state.
Absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit about your political career. What has been the greatest accomplishment you feel you've done since being the mayor of Chandler?
Boy, that's a hard one because there's different layers to that.
I
I would
figured.
say in community wise is I started, one of the things I'm very proud of is I started an initiative called I Help, Interfaith Homeless Emergency Lodging Program. I brought that to Chandler. The city works very closely with Ascend, and every night of the year, we provide a shelter. A different church opens their doors that literally has helped thousands of people over greater than 10
Nice.
years get off the streets and into a better future. And that's something I've
That's
been really
great.
proud of. For finances, I really dialed down as a mayor and said, what can I do with one-time dollars to make sure that we're better poised as a city fiscally? And with council, we paid down over $200 million to pay off the
Wow.
unfunded pension liability that we didn't create, but we were responsible for police and fire. And we're the only large city that officially has paid this down. It secures the pension and long-term status of our police and fire after they retire to make sure that money is there. And I just think that rather than chase other items, I thought it's our job to put the city in as best fiscal shape as possible. So I pursued that and other things like LED lighting in in our street lights and really punch that down to where we're saving $750,000 every year in
Wow.
power cost of street lights and
That's
over 11
amazing.
million every year in the public pension thing of interest that we would be paying. So
Wow.
it's just being fiscally sound to
Right.
make sure that we are creating a better future and future councils won't have to address these issues and they have more money to work with as they plan the future.
Yeah. So I tell my kids all the time, like as they were growing up, we were raising them. Whenever Nick and I would go somewhere and they come home, it's like leave it better than you found it. So you're
Yes.
obviously leaving Chandler better than you found it.
And I still pick up trash. Whenever I see trash on a sidewalk, whether it's
Yeah.
at my church or the city, I think it costs me nothing to pick this up. And why isn't it my job at all levels to say, how can I leave the street, the sidewalk? I've been known when a resident complains about a feral animal that's been killed to bag that animal and take care of it rather than just thinking it's somebody else's responsibility.
Wow. Now I want to go back real quick. What was the name of the program that you were proud of? I didn't catch the name.
I help
I help.
interfaith homeless emergency lodging program. Tempe had already employed this. They stole it
Okay.
from Monterey, California. I stole
Okay.
it from them, as have others, because it is cost efficient. It runs probably a dime, 15 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
If this was a full-fledged government program where you had to build a shelter, you had to fully
Okay.
staff it. It runs in church facilities, volunteer rich, and it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I wanted to pull it up and share the screen so people could see what it was. But it just like you said, it just keeps popping up with Chandler. I mean Chandler because Tempe's the one you kind of said kicked it off. But
Yeah,
it's not a good enough page to share. Although I don't know if you saw this. I was sharing your smiling face. Can you tell us about this photo, Mayor? See it?
there we are. I was speaking to a group of at the time, I think these are second graders
Okay.
from Santan Elementary a few years ago. And
Nice.
just last week, I spoke to third graders from Fry Elementary. I
Cool.
always love getting in front of kids. I always
Absolutely.
love answering their questions and hope that one of these kiddos is going to be the future mayor of Chandler. And the idea was planted as a result of this. They give some great questions like,
Right? Kids have
how
no
old
filters.
are you? And do you print money? And I tell them I'm old enough to be their grandparent. And no, I don't print money.
That's fantastic. So we're looking at so this is kind of cool. This is near and dear to my heart, and I'm gonna share this with the world. Team RWB. So I have done a lot of things with Team RWB because my son's a Marine. My entire family on both sides have been military personnel. So what was this event? Do you recall what this was that you were doing?
I sure do because I do it every year. This
Outstanding.
is with the core team of Exchange Club,
Okay.
who every year they respond with wreaths across America in December.
Nice. Yeah.
So just before Christmas, a couple weeks, I will join them again and
Great.
hundreds of other volunteers, and we will lay a Christmas wreath on the grave of every veteran.
That's
And this is
fantastic.
at Sun Valley Cemetery off
Okay.
of Alma School and Chandler Heights.
And Riggs, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Chandler
yeah.
Heights, Riggs area. Yep. Yep.
North of Riggs, Chandler Heights is a mile north of there, but great group that works with us. We've got close to 1,700 veterans who are in that cemetery who are laid to rest there. I love participating, as do many of our council, to just remember and honor our veterans.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about this photo because it kind of looks like it's a is this a karate suit, Mayor?
I believe it is.
Right
And
on.
this looks like an event that I can almost date myself by the hats I'm wearing and the people that I'm with. This particular event, I believe, was at a Asian festival
Okay.
in South Chandler. That's the stage behind, in which I was gifted this robe, this belt. I
Nice.
punched a few pieces of boards, and one of the things I love about my Chandler too is because of the intels and companies of the
Mhm.
world, we have brought the world to Chandler, and we have the most
Yeah.
diverse community of any city in Arizona. So we have a lot of festivals. This was an Asian festival at Tumbleweed Park,
Yep.
maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Just week,
2021. Yep.
I spoke at a Asian festival at a kind of a new area at Saigon Center at the northeast corner of Warner and Arizona Avenue. I joined about
Neat.
3,000 people there in the parking lot for a fun event.
Okay.
I do a lot of new moon festivals, a lot of New Year festivals, dim sum festivals, answer
Nice.
a lot of questions of all of our communities. But to me, particularly many in our Asian festival embody the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
You can picture a Vietnamese family that came here a generation ago with nothing. They were part of the boat people who left
Okay.
Vietnam after the peace agreements and they needed to get out and
Yeah.
found their way to Chandler with the clothes on their back and worked hard. And their children are now doctors and engineers. And they realized the American dream that says if you
Nice.
work hard and you continue to do great things, you have a future here, which is the
Yep.
American dream for all of us.
Absolutely. And there's a picture of the Asian American leadership, something you did back in May of 2021.
Yeah, I recognize everyone on that in that board. That's a fun group.
There's no hat though, Kevin. I was hoping for another fun hat.
I've got a few of them from in
I
my
know you
office,
do.
from football helmets to baseball caps. I was just gifted from Taiwanese Little League. They came and visited my office and gave me this baseball about the size of a mini softball or a mini basketball with
Yeah.
all of their names on there. And
Nice.
it's fun.
It is fun.
I think
With
if
you going,
you look behind
you
me,
know,
you can see all of these events that are largely from gifted to me from groups
cool.
from around the world and my
That's
bicycle.
fantastic. Right, and your bicycle. So with you terming out, when's your last day as mayor of Chandler?
I term out early January of 27, probably
Okay.
the first full Tuesday, I think, or Monday will be the last day. It's around the same time of
Okay.
being sworn in my next gig as a
Okay.
state legislator.
Right on. That's
If I
fantastic.
am
Now
so
what
blessed to be elected in.
yeah. How now when was that election? Because I don't recall that.
So there will be a primary election in August of 26, and
Okay.
then again for the general in November. So for the
Okay.
city, I can win and have won as mayor both times in the primary
Okay.
if you get enough votes. But the statewide election, since it's a partisan race, is that I could win the primary in August, but then go on to the general race in November.
Gotcha.
So I'll be
Okay.
part of the gubernatorial election cycle for this
Okay.
particular race, as opposed to the presidential.
There you go. So boys and girls, get out there and vote because we want Mayor Hartke to stay as a leader in our city of Chandler because he is just a fantastic human being. And here he is with Odie Harris, who is now Odie Harris. He's currently involved in Chandler's politics, correct?
Odie was at the last election was reelected. This looks like an event at maybe the Boys and
The
Girls Club in Chandler that
Yep,
the city's
Chandler High School.
involved in sporting. It looks like we have a signed basketball from somebody there. I
Yep,
can't get one of those.
I can't either.
I do have, I've got a couple of those. One from, do you remember the Big O, Oliver Miller, back in the
Yes. Yep.
run? I've got
Yep.
one of his
Yep.
signed basketballs, and Oliver, bless
God
his
rest his.
heart, passed away this past year. And so it makes it even more special to me to have one of his balls. I was a big fan of that run with my oldest son in the 90s, watching that.
Oh, weren't we all? That was fantastic. That was a great time to be a Suns fan.
It sure was.
And just too bad we had to go up against Chicago and Jordan.
I,
Otherwise,
I
I
have
think we would
another
have.
fun story for you from that
Yes,
run.
please, please.
Not just have I had a chance to meet a lot of the folks, you certainly one of our still basketball statements is Charles Barkley, that was
Yes.
huge in that series. So, as a pastor, I had a bad incident, which is
Uh,
reminiscent of this weekend where we had a lot of rains. But back in must have been the early 2000s, we had a big storm, and there was a young man in our church who got caught up where he shouldn't have been and died in a flood. He was with some friends and they got caught in a flood, ended up killing them all. Well, his girlfriend and son were members of our church. So I started a GoFundMe before, while that was difficult back then. You had to work
yeah,
with a bank. It wasn't so easy as just click and give, and was able to raise some money for not only the funeral service, but had enough money because of Charles Barkley to actually set up a college fund for this
right
young
on.
man. And so I got a call from Charles and told me he wanted to donate X amount of money to this particular cause. He did. We paid for funeral expenses out of his donations and others, and set up an account. And the young man, it was released within a couple years ago after he turned 18, where that he was able to access this money and go on with his education or what other schooling that he wanted to do.
That's great.
Charles Barkley did a lot of that stuff behind the scenes, and I didn't tell this story for a lot of years because back when he was in that situation, he didn't want to get more calls of everyone calling
See,
about.
I love that because to me, giving back is giving back because it's something that feeds your soul. So I have the belief of it to where if you're doing it and then the cameras are behind you, are you really doing it because you want to do it? Or are you doing it because you want the public to see you doing it and to kind of elevate your status? So I like the fact that
Yeah.
he didn't want you to share that until later in life. So now here's a fun question. So when Barkley called your office, were you like, okay, who is this really? Because he was I mean, he was it. It was him and Jordan and Malone and Wright and Ewing back then. I mean, those were the superstars of the NBA. So if I got a call from Charles Barkley, I'd be like, yeah, who is this really?
This was a bit after that he's run, obviously,
Okay.
but he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
he's a larger than life guy with one of the biggest hearts, I think, on this planet.
That's
And I,
awesome.
I think anyone who has seen his generosity, and I am told that my story has been retold many, many times of just his being moved by compassion and wanting to make a difference and do it in such a way that actually helped and didn't draw attention to him. And
Yeah.
I know a few of those folks, but I
Which
was
again, I
glad
think.
to have had that conversation with him.
And again, that's where I kind of think that giving back is more of you don't need the cameras. It shouldn't be in the spotlight. I mean, I get why certain things happen professional sports wise when you're, the man of the year and things like that. They have to have cameras to show they're making an impact in their community. But it's the ones you don't hear about for years. And then oh, wow, he did that. That means so much to someone like me because it shows that they actually have a genuine heart. They're not just doing it because they want the attention. Like you. Like I had no idea that you were the pastor and the mayor when we're handing out food boxes. You weren't walking around like I'm the mayor of Chandler. I didn't know it was your church, right? You were just this normal person like me, helping those in need, which that's what gravitated me towards you. And that's how we kind of bonded, formed somewhat of a friendship. I'm not going to call you, let's go drinking because I don't drink, but you know what I mean, right? I think more people should do that though, right? You need to give without the precursor of look at me, just give to give.
I'll tell you what, Chris, I just finished I forage a lot of stuff and I picked a lot of apples from northern Arizona and I make a really, really cool apple cider. And so, we should get together and have an apple cider mocktail, put a little ginger beer and apple cider in there. And I think you would love it.
Okay,
Ginger
I'm
beer
down.
has no alcohol in it. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah. I've
really
been
fun, refreshing beverage.
cool. I'm game. I haven't had a drink in over 20 years. February 9th is my annual sober day. So, fake beer's fun nowadays, but I don't miss the real thing at all. So what are your plans when you become your next level of going into Arizona? What's your goals there you want to accomplish?
I think I could be a very strong value proposition for our next governor. In this case, is that what I do well as a mayor is bringing people together and finding consensus and working for a larger goal. And I will work hard to get to know my peers. I will work hard to, on issues that matter, bring us together. I hope to really focus strongly on issues like water and power distribution, that they're long-term issues that we need to pay more attention than we are now. And those kind of concern me. I met with somebody from Intel this morning,
Okay.
and certainly those are always issues. Intel does well in Chandler because of power and water distribution. And if we want to see more of these kind of high level companies moving to Arizona, we really need to be able to make delivery issues and power and water promises. And I would like to be part of those things. Certainly, I think that there's a lot more better deals to be done by collaboration and working together. As the president of League of Cities, at times we're at odds, but we don't need to be. The way I look at this, we all agree that housing is an important issue in Arizona. And I think me being on the floor, I could have worked better rather than giving cities mandates. I think options and menus are better to get everybody on board to achieve the same goals. I'm not out to be in front of cameras, but I am out to work behind the scenes and make our state look good, make our legislator, our leaders look good by getting things done.
Now, do you have aspirations beyond your next step? Earlier I kind of faux pod saying Governor Hartke.
It's one step at a time,
Yeah.
and see what doors open. I wouldn't be mayor today had I not lost my first election to Jack Sellers, my first run for council, by 23 votes. Jack and
Really?
I are friends, but the
Wow.
first time I ran in the primary, Jack bested me by 23. And I think that there's a lot of things that have to come together, and not just sheer ambition. There is
Well, sure.
I'm willing to, I'm a hardworking guy. I start off
Yes,
every
you are.
day answering emails, getting on social media, and I spend a couple hours just responding and things. And I want to make sure that I'm continuing to do that. And we'll see where our state goes. But I'm content. I'm the kind of guy that I don't need to lead. But if I see a vacuum, I do lead, and
There you
I'm
go.
willing to
Yeah.
serve, and serving is what I'm about. And at times it means I'll step up in areas of leadership if I don't see other people doing it, because I don't need to be the guy that is
Yeah.
initially doing this stuff.
Yeah. You just like to be involved, if anything, right?
I want to make things better.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what I do with everything in my life. And I like to give a stab at it at that level. Well, I like to do a lot of things. I like to hang out with my family, of course. I've got
Hmm.
4 kids and 4
Okay.
grandkids. Just before
Boys,
COVID hit, I bought
boys are, let's go back to the,
I have 2 and 2 kids and
okay.
3 and 1 boys, 1 girl
Okay.
grandkids. My grands are
Now, so,
between 7 and 13, and
okay.
my kiddos are between 29 and 39.
It's good to see you again. So we were talking about grandchildren, right? So do you feel that way? Like with the grandkids, you don't have the stress of well, you have to steer this child in the right direction. You just kind of hang out and enjoy the moment more.
We do. And we make all the birthdays. We do a lot of events. All of my kids and grandkids live in Arizona,
Nice.
although as far south as Marana and Casa Grande.
Okay.
But even that is fairly close. So we try to get together with every opportunity possible and enjoy. We do Thanksgiving and Christmas the day after so that I don't compete with in-laws. And so we try to be thoughtful. My wife is an amazing woman, an amazing grandma that is always there helping.
How long have you and your wife been married?
40.
Nice, nice, nice. You want to give a shout out to the wife?
Lynn, I love you. You're amazing.
Yeah, I have 30 years, so I'm catching up to you, but it'll take me forever to catch up to you because you're not going to stop anytime soon, obviously.
I sure hope not. And
Yeah.
you sure got started a lot earlier on these grandkids than I did. So
Yeah, Nikki and I
that's
got
pretty
married.
amazing.
Yeah, I was 25, she was 20 when we met, and then we got married when she was 21 and I was 26. So,
Okay.
so my son Jake, he's a Marine. He's over in California, so he just turned 25 in April, and my daughter's turning 30 next September. So yeah, we started young.
Okay.
Yeah, we started young.
Yeah. We were 25. Well, I was 20. Yeah, I think I was 25.
Okay.
Lynn was 20 when we got married.
Yeah. Okay. So same.
Then I think I was 29 when my first son was born,
Gotcha.
and 39 when my last son was
Okay.
born.
Yeah, we were the fun couple that had a shotgun wedding. So yeah, Skylar, our daughter figured it out when she was, I think, 12 or 13. She started doing the math. She was like, "You got married in February, and I was born in September. Now I don't know how that works, but there's something off there." And they're like, "Yes, Skylar, you were a welcome surprise." And then we had Jake 5 years later. So then that was it. We were done. We had one each, and we're like, "Okay, we don't need any more babies. One of each." And I believe, I mean, I don't know about you, but boys are so much easier to raise than girls.
We had to keep the guardrails pretty intact with our boys.
Yeah.
I remember in junior high when they started wanting to go to parties, boys or girls, we would say things like, I need the names, I need phone numbers, I need
Yep.
addresses, I'm going to call parents. And you can count on, I'm probably going to cruise by once or twice during this just to make sure that this is a party that is contained and constrained.
Right.
And they hated it at the time, and now they're doing it.
Right? Isn't that fun? It's like our daughter does the same thing. Like she used to give us so much kind of crap, when I'm a parent, blah blah, and now it's like I told her a couple weeks ago, which I hate to give her compliments because whenever we compliment our daughter, then something happens and it goes south. So we kind of just keep it hush hush. But I randomly just told her a couple weeks ago, I'm proud of you, and I've seen how far you've come as a mother and a husband, and you're doing a great job. And she was like, "Oh," but you see things that you taught them that then you watch them teach their children. It's like you don't say anything, right? Because you don't want to be like neener. But it's kind of neat to see that's carried its weight through the relationship. And because she lives next to us, she lives on our property. We added up 1,400 square feet to our 1,300 square feet to our house, so we could be with and help take care of the grandkids and stuff. So it's kind of fun. Every morning, little man comes out his front porch and runs to my back porch, and we come in the house, and I feed him breakfast. We hang out, play Legos, Minecraft blocks, whatever, before I take him to school at 8 o'clock. So we've done that since he was 3 weeks old. So it's a nice little thing that he and I have done forever. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Kudos. It is interesting where I think the things that I look back that I taught my kids, and some I learned from my parents, some I learned just by watching other parents and ask them, how do you do that? Whether it was finances or a variety of things. And
Sure.
I think I feel like I'm a better dad than my dad was. But I know that he was the best dad that he was able to be. I know that I endeavor, and I think that's what we all want to be, is just be the best dad you could be, because we're all coming from somewhere, and we all have internal and external obstacles that we've learned that aren't necessarily good. But so kudos to you.
Yeah. I had no example of a father. My parents divorced when I was 3. So as we are raising our kids, there's moments where I would tell my daughter and my son, "Look, I'm a first-time dad. Like I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So you're a first-time daughter or you're a first-time son. We have to cut each other some slack because it's all growing pains." My son has resonated that back a few times in random conversations, that he remembers me saying that, because it was something that I didn't know how to address certain things because I never had an example, right? I grew up with a single mother, so there was nobody really to help me on certain avenues of an adult, like, especially being a father to my daughter. There's certain things I don't know how to deal with that because I never had that example. Same thing with Jake. So it was kind of a cool little dynamic that we were able to be that transparent with them. And Nikki did a ton of the work as opposed to what I did, because she's a teacher, so she took them to school with them every day, and they went to her school she was teaching at until they got to 6th grade. Then we put them in the junior high in Chandler, where we live, so they could have friends going into high school. So she was more day-to-day hands-on with all that kind of stuff than I was, just because we chose to do that as opposed to just, sticking them in the neighborhood school. We don't know if that's right or wrong because that's just how we did it. So, but it's a cool thing to see now, stepping back and watch your children raise their children and see the little nuances of the seeds you planted, and they still kind of implement that or still have those kind of concepts. So it's a fun thing. It's a fun process. If you're not a grandparent, I highly suggest you get married, have kids, and then wait around for grandchildren, because it's a blast.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about? It's been super nice having you on the show, by the way.
Chris, thank you. And you're always welcome to join us for food box giveaways. It'll be next Tuesday again. It's always the third Tuesday. We're always looking for people who love people. And you know what's fun about that? Where we first met and still, it's almost become its own congregation. We get a lot of seniors from South Chandler, and I like to greet everybody. I like to talk to everybody and check in on everybody. And it continues to be a really cool thing that I'm grateful to Bill Berry and Resurrection Street Ministries. And I'd encourage everybody who's watching this is opportunities to serve are all over the place in your community, in my community. You don't have to be mayor. You don't have to be involved in politics. You don't have to be a pastor. I think I tell kids in elementary schools, it can start with picking up trash or saying hello to a kid. It can start by noticing a need and being part of the solution, whether it's in an HOA, in an elementary or high school or anywhere across this great city. There's opportunities to make things better, and we seem to hone
Absolutely.
on that. Rather,
Yeah.
this conversation, rather it being a parent, how do we make things better for next generation or anyone in this scenario? So I just want to challenge you: is whether you're engaged in a church, whether you're engaged in anything in this community, is that you can be a change maker and you can
Absolutely.
make life better for this community, for your family, for anybody.
Agreed. So let's give the people the address to the church and the start and finish time for that. It's the full details of the food box give out.
Sure. So third Tuesday of every month, 2:30 till about 3:30 or 4, Trinity Christian Fellowship, 50 South McQueen, Chandler, Arizona. You could show up at 2:30 and say, "Hey, I saw this podcast and I want to volunteer," and we'll find a way for you to serve.
There you go. And then remember in the upcoming elections, make sure you vote for Mr. Hartke so he can continue
I'm
his.
serving in Legislative District 13,
There you
which
go.
is Sun Lakes, South Chandler, and Northwest Gilbert, west of Gilbert Road.
Okay.
And love to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. That's Mayor Hartke, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate you. You're such a superhuman with a great life resume. So we'll be seeing you soon. Don't go anywhere yet. Once I sign off, we're going to make sure everything's uploading properly. This will air probably in 2 weeks. So I'll give you all this information when it does. And then we're live on Twitch and YouTube as we are doing today's show, which is always fun. So we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, Mayor. God bless.
Say hi to Nikki for me.
I will. Say hi to Lynn for me.